of Bank of Africa. Bank of Africa, the African bank with global reach. Bank of Africa, as close as a partner. And our boss lady this morning is, let's say, the name needs no explanation. She's an Nkrumah, and as I said, nothing to do with the Okros. She's to do with the Osagyefo. Samia Yaba Nkrumah is our guest on the Boss Lady section of the program here on the Asaase Breakfast Show. And we say good morning to you, Samia.
Good morning to you and to everyone listening.
And thank you so much for joining us. We know that you have been very busy. You've been on the road. We've been trying for the better part of 2 years, I think, to get to have a proper sit-down conversation with you. Yeah. And we're very glad that you could join us for our Boss Lady section program this morning. So life on the road, because you, of course, have strong links to the western region of this country, where we recently heard about the NPP going to do its manifesto launch, but you have special links to Jomoro, where you previously were the MP, and news has broken, indeed, in the international press, and we knew from Chinese whispers earlier on that you are intending to stand this year again for the seat in Jomoro, having been the MP in the 2009 to 2013 Parliament. What is it that persuaded you after you were the sole CPP member of Parliament for a while in that 2009 Parliament, and you were also concurrently for a bit the chair of the Convention People's Party, right. Of course very much associated with your father, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the founder of the CPP, but you seem to have stepped back from frontline politics for a bit. So what has persuaded you to step back into frontline politics?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, of course, I've never really given up on our dream, our plan to make a contribution to our father's legacy, to consolidate it and promote it. And we do that in different ways. One of the ways we do that, of course, is to work with the people and try and represent them from what we call an Nkrumahist perspective or mindset. So I've never really given up on going back to Parliament. And this year, as you rightly said, I'm contesting as an independent candidate.
Now, there's the thing. Why an independent candidate rather than on the ticket of the CPP, the party that your father founded, which is so associated with Nkrumah? I mean, Nkrumah is CPP and CPP is Nkrumah.
Oh, but I believe Nkrumah and Nkrumahism has gone way beyond party politics now. I think they are Nkrumahists, especially amongst the younger generation, in every single party, NPP, NDC, CPP, PNC, PPP, and all the other parties. I believe there's a resurgence of interest in what Nkrumah did and how he did it and why he did it. So I think it would be a mistake to limit Kwame Nkrumah to one party. Moreover, of course, the smaller parties have been battling with many issues. So even though we say we are in a multi-party system, in reality, we are in a duopoly. There are two big parties that dominate the scene and that have governed Ghana for the past 30-odd years. So the issue with smaller parties, and I speak from experience. It's not something I heard or someone told me. As you rightly said, I was the lone MPP for the lone and MP rather for the CPP. I became the chairperson of the CPP, so I speak from experience. The smaller parties are not financially independent, and it's difficult in the current environment for them to be so. So as a result, they are torn apart internally by those who are with NPP or with the NDC. So I find it's a bit fake to assume that these parties stand on their own and exist on their own.
So you think the factionalism in a party like the CPP, of which you were the chair, you took over the chair in September 2011, you think the factionalism is due to the competing forces from those two big parties at work within a party like the CPP?
And that's politics.
You don't think it's something to do with, because I think we'll agree that CPP stands for a socialist platform, or an African socialist view of life. You don't think that it's something about socialism in itself that is inclined to factionalism? I mean, we know about socialist parties across the world, Trotskyite communist parties across the world, which have factions within factions within factions. The French left being a classic example of that.
Oh no, I beg to differ, because factionalism is in every single party.
To the extent that it has been in the CPP, we've heard about arguments over symbols, arguments over who's the executive.
Yes, I know it's dreadful now, but that's the thing. When it happens in a small organization, it can tear it apart. But when it happens in a governing party or in a strong opposition, then they can survive and weather the storm. But just back to the CPP again, because I think that point is very important. Kwame Nkrumah's CPP had a mission to accomplish. He formed the party to speed up the independence journey and to achieve or deliver independence to the people of Ghana, to raise the standard of living. That mission has been accomplished. Today, now we have to think and respond to the needs of the time. And I believe the needs of the time in Ghana is to build consensus across political parties. I believe when some of us say we are standing as independent, because I don't know, people stand as independent candidates for probably for different reasons. But I know what our reasons are, myself and my supporters. And that is because we truly want to build consensus. We believe that extreme partisanship is not working for our development, and it's not serving the intent of politics, and that is to raise the standard of living of the people and deliver basic needs, deliver progress, prosperity. So it's taken us longer to do that because of extreme partisanship. So for me, the independent card is to say that, hey, we are for every good initiative, every good policy, irrespective of where it comes from. And we don't want to simply oppose for the sake of power or getting power or for electoral victory. We want things to happen, and we want us to move in the right direction. And we want the people of Ghana, the leaders of Ghana, the politicians of Ghana, the business leaders, political leaders, civil society leaders, leaders across the board. We want to sit together, get the best people, irrespective of which political orientation they belong to put our heads together and prioritize what is important for our development. What is important for our development today? Manufacturing, industrialization. We know that. So what are the steps we can take to encourage entrepreneurs, to encourage Ghanaians to go into industrialization and manufacturing, agri-industry, agriculture, agri-industry? What do we need to do? What policies do we need to enact? So another thing that is important to us is better governance, because we want to show the whole world, as our father said, that the black man and woman can manage our own affairs and manage it well. And that entails being able to be transparent, to show what we are doing, why we are doing it, and to let the people have a say, have a true say in everything that is happening.
Some would say, sorry, not to interrupt you there, but say perfectly laudable ideals to have, the consensus building, putting national interest first rather than petty partisan interests and so on. But you talked about the difficulties of being able to achieve that from within one of the smaller parties because they're under these pressures you describe. Isn't it going to be even more difficult to raise money as an independent and to prosecute a campaign that other people will be willing to turn an ear to as an independent? That's a very lonely position. What is it that has alienated you from the CPP?
I don't feel I'm alienated from the CPP because I talk to the leaders, I follow what they are doing. But I'm not alienated from the people of Ghana. I'm not alienated from my prospective constituency. I'm not alienated from the political elite.
So not being alienated, why couldn't you stay in bed, to use a rough phrase, with the convention?
We want to chart a new way forward, not to be hindered by the constraints of party lines, because I think that's what Ghana has to do. We can belong to different parties. We can disagree on issues, but I'm convinced that there are certain things we agree on. So why don't we focus on what we agree on and not on what we differ about? So it's the independent card is a new way forward. It's a way of managing our political differences, and it's a way of building consensus. So I would invite you not to see it as against everybody, but for everything that is good. It is not lonely, because even though I'm standing as an independent candidate, but I'm standing on a certain tradition that achieved something good for Ghana and Ghanaians, and I dare say Africans at large. So we are not without convictions. We are not without principles. We are not standing alone. We are standing on the shoulders of an incredible vision that we need to resuscitate. And that is a vision that speeded up our independence struggle and laid the foundation for an industrialized and prosperous country. The fact that it was cut short because of differences, misunderstandings, is part of history, and we take it in our stride, but we have to move on. We have to look forward. That's why I'm not steeped into past differences and acrimonies. And that is why I'm not saying I'm against the CPP, but I just feel it's the wrong way of moving forward for our country. Let us do something new. And I know that this approach resonates with many young people who I strongly believe in. I'm a very strong believer in young people, in that dynamism and energy and courage that will help us do things a little bit different. Even in politics, the way we approach politics, it has to change for our own good.
Well, so that's why very much we were keen to style this as your life beyond party politics, even if politics is where it started, because inevitably you were born into a very political setup. Of course, you're the only daughter of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Madam Fathia Nkrumah, both of blessed memory, as we say in the local parlance. Born in the year of the foundation of the Republic. I mean, a year must have been such optimism with new beginnings. So a very political setup. Were you keenly aware of politics right from the start? Being born in Abri, I think you were. Is that right?
That's right. In the glorious Pedwasi Lodge.
You were born in Pedwasi Lodge?
Absolutely, Nanaya. And it was a much smaller place, of course.
Right.
But that was our father's own house, by the way, which he bequeathed to the state to have what it is today, which is a very good place we are proud of, Presidential Lodge, to entertain and receive dignitaries from all over the world.
But built, I think, with women, with money donated by the market women of Ghana.
Absolutely, and women entrepreneurs and supporters of our father, the party. And they wanted him to have that place to relax at weekends. And so it had a vision. But as in everything our father did, because he was intentional and everything was a political decision for him, he gave it to the state. He wanted it to be what it is today. And these are some of the things that I find very endearing about him and that have made me read about him and try and understand his political work and what he meant, what he wanted to do, and what he meant by his philosophy and ideology. So, yes, I am born into this great tradition, but it took me a while because of the history of our family, what we went through, the trauma, the uprootedness, being away from Ghana for decades and all that. So it took me a while to build up the courage to come back home and say, hey, yeah, I want to be part of this. I want to also inspire a new generation of young people to be part of this. What our father left us, to me, is like a set of guidelines. Aside from his great achievements, Akosombo Dam, motorway, things we are building on, by the way, today, nuclear reactor, gold refinery. We are building everything we are doing today. We are building on what he started. What Ghana started under him, because of course he worked with so many people.
Walking in the footsteps of giants, one might say. And you mentioned there everything being political with Osagyefo.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
Being born in Vidyasa Lodge, and the clear thinking that he had about the house there. So having been born into this very political environment, you referred obliquely to the upheavals, of course, the 1966 coup. You're barely 5 years old, and you have people escorted out of Flagstaff House with guns being held virtually to your heads, having to flee the country and return to the country of your mother's birth. A sudden uprooting at a young age. You lost your father at a young age as well. And you weren't 12 yet when he passed, were you?
That's right.
And then have to return to Ghana, or at the invitation of the then military regime in 1975. You then decide, your mother decides to return to Ghana with her children, and you start a new life here. What were your feelings as a very young teenager moving to Ghana, this land which you must have had some memories of, and almost some mythical associations of, being very much part of your family history and your father's history, but a very foreign land it must have been when you moved back here then?
Yes, absolutely, and it was quite traumatic. I can't lie to you. So I was terrified. The first few years, and it took me a while to just, to settle down and integrate. Yes, it took years actually for the healing, so to speak, to come. But I believe it's a beautiful journey, because we will always have challenges in life, but the journey of overcoming them taught me a great deal. I mean, our difficulties or challenges did not end there, because we lived through a few other coups, and after the 81 coup that toppled the PNP government of Dr. Liman, we had to leave once again, and I spent some years in England working, doing all manner of jobs to earn a living and to be able to go back to school, to university.
Indeed, you had your world of work, starting work in a bank before you were able to take your first degree.
Absolutely. I had to save money. I applied for a grant. So I went through so many things, but those 10 years gave me such a depth of understanding of what people who don't have, what they go through. The struggle to make ends meet, to eke out a living, the struggle to be humble, the struggle to just overcome the daily trials and tribulations. And that has given me a keen understanding of what the majority or the average Ghanaian goes through. And it's still guiding me in many ways. So And it makes me wonder that, yes, we do need a change, even a change of mindset with, those of us who aspire to be leaders, at the lowest level, if you like. Yeah. But we have
Hardly.
we need to imbibe a spirit of modesty. And eschew greed, that is so important. These are not just platitudes, but why do we need to have one? Like, I give you an example. Like when we are campaigning in our constituencies, we are always under pressure. Why don't we move with a convoy of 7 cars? And I try to tell our people, but that doesn't mean you can serve your people well. Would you rather we waste money running in so many cars rather than doing something for you with this money, a mechanized borehole, giving soft loans to women who need it? So we are trying, as we are moving, as we are campaigning, we are trying to understand ourselves and impart a certain understanding of what a modest politician needs to look like and needs to act. So that big man, big woman syndrome, I reject it. But I want to take our people with us and understand that we must reject it. The needs of our time today is for us to hold hands and rise together. And opulence, wealth, a show of power does not equate with competence, with proficiency, with sincerity, and with progress, and with serving your people well.
Some people would say that service to people or no, that phrase modest politician is a contradiction in terms. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about your relations with your siblings in vis-a-vis the whole political question, because of course our condolences to you. Recently lost your senior brother, Professor Francis Nkrumah. We had wanted to have you in on Founders Day, and that was the very day when you were laying him to rest. Our sympathies to you and your whole family. You have your two other brothers, Gamal and Sekou. Gamal has chosen a path, I mean, it's an Nkrumahist life, but very much a life rooted in journalism. We know of his work with Al-Ahram. You worked with Al-Ahram for a bit, but you moved on to other areas, even different countries. And Sekou, who has had a political dimension to his public life, but more as an independent commentator, and with whom in the past on occasion you've been at variance when it comes to your father's legacy to Ghana. Interesting that you, the girl, out of all these boys, are the one that took the political path. You've now decided it's not going to be party political, but you took the political path. Was there something particular in your upbringing or the example you learned from your mother that made you comfortable eventually, after you'd done your adjustment to the Ghanaian setting, with the idea of a woman, as a woman, it being perfectly normal for you to enter politics?
Yes, indeed. I mean, our mother had a strong influence on us in many ways, because with all what she went through, with all the trials, because obviously mothers, I mean, they bear the brunt of trials when things go wrong in a family. So I think she paid the ultimate sacrifice, and I think I need to give her a voice, which I've done in the book I'm writing, or done with the first draft, on the life of our father, but through my eyes, a peek into, our everyday life, and with many stories, intimate stories, which somehow shed light on the human side of our father, as much as on his political work.
So this is Samia's life of Osagyefo, as it were.
You could say that. Oh, that's a good one. I have to think of that.
Terrible title, but it's your perspective, both through your childhood years and now as an adult, on your father's legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why did your idea of his legacy differ so much from Sekou's?
Yeah, okay. I think we must allow ourselves to differ. We react to things in different ways. And I remember our father, I mean, I even remember one assassination attempt on his life that happened in the gardens of Flagstaff House when I was 4 years old. One of my earliest memories, actually. Traumatic memories, but very strong. And so my understanding of our father grew out of many things, but including also my personal attachment to him as a father, So I think we react to things in different way, and of course Sekou's free to express his views, to even oppose me. as long, I hope, as he doesn't put me down in the process. And I have a very strong sense of family. So I'm never going to fight with my siblings in public. I might do it indoors.
In private.
In private, yes. But I'm never going, because I believe family is one of the most important things in life. You know, and we need to hold on to each other, and we need to be together, because, as we said, life comes with many challenges. But I was saying that, yes, indeed, our mother had an influence on us, because despite all what she went through, for me, she imbibed in us that respect and understanding of what our father was trying to do. So I believe she made a contribution in her own quiet, silent way. She made a contribution to the legacy of our father. So yes, indeed. The reason we differ, I think, is that your question? Why do we differ?
Why are your views so different?
Because of how we've internalized our experience, I believe, and because we are different people and we have different purposes in life. I believe my purpose is to consolidate the legacy of our father, and I've understood many things about why he did certain things. I am not saying everything he did should be done today, you know, because that's moving backwards. But I'm saying that for that time, for that period, for these circumstances, I understand why it happened, and I understand why he did it. And of course, here I'm thinking of the charges against him.
The Preventive Detention Act.
Yes, Act. The
imprisonment of political opponents.
Exactly, yes.
The one-party state.
The one-party, yes. These things. If we understand the totality of the circumstances, why they happened, how they happened, I think we'll come to an understanding that if he allowed them to happen, because obviously in some cases he was not personally doing everything, and indeed, two of the men who were in charge of some of these actions, like Deku and Harley, were actually instrumental in overthrowing him. So he couldn't have overseen every single thing. So I wouldn't put it past events that some innocent people might have been held, but not with his approval, because he couldn't have known every single thing that the police commanders were doing and so forth. So, but when you understand the challenges, and you understand that there was an element of violence in our post-independence governance. I mean, there was terrible things were happening. People were being killed. There were, and things had to happen. And these PDA is something that England, the UK had it in the laws. A country like India had a big democracy. So I think let us debate and study them further to understand the why and how. But nevertheless, because I truly want us to move forward, you know, and I've said it many times, in my heart of hearts, from the bottom of my heart, I mean, I feel like I must apologize to anyone who was adversely affected by these policies. That is not to say that I don't understand why they happened, but if anyone was hurt in a way that was not in proportion to any act that they've committed, then I am so sorry, because I want to take us forward. I want us to hold hands as Ghanaians. I want us to not forget the past, but I want us to move forward together, not separately. And this is why I'm condemning, you know, extreme partisanship.
But moving back in the direction of the Nkrumah's legacy, and if you like, the way different people might see it. So one might infer from what you're saying there about Seku's approach to looking at Osagyefo's life that he at least wants to critique it whereas you, as you say, you want to build on the legacy of Kwame Nkrumah. So he adopts quite a critical position. And indeed, the business of how to memorialize your father, of course, has been a matter of major public debate in this country.
Yes.
The whole thing, is it Founders Singular Day? Is it Founders Plural Day? Why do we no longer celebrate Republic Day? We talked about the year of your birth. But we do have a dedicated Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day, of course,
Indeed.
which we're building up to next month on his birthday, the 21st of September. You have also seen the opening of the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park as a major, if you like, feature on the architectural landscape, our built environment here in Accra. A big tourist attraction, everybody impressed by what has been set out there. When you look at the ways in which Osagyefo's legacy is being revisited, you're doing that through this memoir of your own that you're writing. Other people are doing it through film or music. We were even talking about fabric prints off air, and a certain celebration of the Nkrumah's pencil print coming up. When you look at all these ways in which his memory or his legacy is being revisited, do you believe that we are getting to the stage where we are able to really accept the Nkrumah's legacy and what it means for us as Ghanaians, as Africans indeed, for what it is, rather than imposing our own political or cultural interpretations on it?
Absolutely. I've seen it for the last few years, and it's getting stronger and stronger. I think we are coming round to the idea that indeed our first president had something great to offer us, and we are building. I mean, the interesting thing is that we are actually building. Everything we are doing is that we are building on what he started doing, and this is, I think there's no dispute about it. And for me, the greatest thing is that it's the younger generation that is at the forefront of that resurgence. So to give you a little example, so the book that I've almost concluded, we are going to make a TV series of it. So because you can't just write a book now. I think you have to bring it to the big screen.
It has to be multimedia.
Absolutely. Thank you. And our son Kwame and two young men are also part of this. So they are young Africans who are interested in promoting, that, or not just promoting the legacy, but in illustrating it in the most entertaining fashion to the younger generation. So I find all this debate about founders and not, it's sterile. We've moved beyond that.
You don't have a preference between Founders Singular, Founders Plural Day then?
No, I know. That's what I said. Do you remember, Nanaya? I said we are never going to agree on anything, on everything. Sorry, I beg your pardon. We'll never, as Ghanaians, agree on it. Of course, I have a preference. And of course, knowing what I know about all what our father was doing and tried to do, indeed, he was the founder of modern-day Ghana. But it doesn't offend me if some others don't agree to that, because they have their reasons. And I don't want to stop on that. That's not going to stop me from working with others who I disagree with for the betterment of Ghana. We have our different views and we have our reasons. But I can't, if I think of Nkrumah, I don't just think of the physical achievements as the factories that were not allowed to thrive, unfortunately, because we have not seen the benefits of all those factories that would have enabled us to produce locally almost every single thing, from toothpicks to shoes to bags to radios to cars to everything. They never saw the light of day. However, I was saying that it's not just the physical achievements, but if you think of the transformation of the mind that the Nkrumah years tried to impart on us from the Arts Council, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, the film, the Ghana film industry, the lottery, the national lottery. I mean, there were moves in different ways. The Institute of African Affairs, of African Studies, I beg your pardon, the Encyclopedia Africana. Just yesterday I was at the Du Bois Center, where we were talking about how our father was influenced by the great Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois and the whole Pan-Africanist struggle. I mean, they were together in the Manchester 1945 Pan-Africanist Congress, yes. Which really gave impetus to
the whole
African revolution, exactly, which was the freedom, the whole independence struggle in the whole continent. So there was Nkrumah's contribution also, and what excites me about it is that focus on the changing of our mindset. You know, what the great African Americans called the African personality. William Blyden first introduced it, and which our father latched on and talked to us about it, that the African personality, that cluster of humanist principles, which underlie our African traditional thinking or practice. Exactly. And the need to rely on our indigenous knowledge systems in everything we do, including our politics. And that's where I'm coming from now, that consensus building, not competition, not winner takes all, but rather sitting together and talking until we agree.
Now, I'm very interested in what you say about young people being the vanguard of, if you like, this next interpretation or the new generation of revival of Nkrumah's thought. And you mentioned your own son there, Kwame. He is called a grandson of Kwame.
Absolutely, in the tradition of many Africans, that's what we do.
In the tradition, indeed. Some of us even end up with fake names, but we won't even go there. But he, of course, you're married to Michele Melecha, I believe.
Melega.
Melega. Pardon my mispronunciation.
No.
And Kwame is your son. Your husband being Italian-Danish, I believe.
Yes.
Does he define himself as African? We know he's an inheritor of an Nkrumah's legacy, obviously through his family tradition. But does he also define himself as African?
Our son? Absolutely. You know, we talk about Africans, people of African descent, this and that. Yeah, even if you have one drop, but that's it.
Isn't that a racial theory?
It's a very precious drop, by the way. You know?
Yes, but it's also a racial theory, the one drop theory.
It is, but I agree with you there. But your upbringing, what you have been exposed to, has a great influence on the way you think and on your identity. And how can the grandson of Kwame Nkrumah not feel African? I mean, it's impossible. I mean, it's impossible. The people who he comes across, the topics we discuss, even the small modest cause his mother is embroiled in. How can he not be African? And how can he not support what I'm doing? And willingly, and I've had no influence, because I believe children should develop their own mind and interests. I've never been a controlling mother. I truly believe in young people. I believe in their independence of mind. I believe they have to find their own path. So everything that's happened, his interest, his desire to be part of all this has come from his own accord, his own volition. But I think that is because of his upbringing and that precious drop we are talking about, because it's not just a drop of blood physically, but it's much more than that, you know. And that's why when we say Pan-Africanism, when we talk about the African personality, when we are thinking of our identity, we are not pushing away friends of Africa, because I mean, Africa is part of humanity. We are part of the human race.
The human story.
In fact, the whole human story and the human race is traced to Africa. So we are not talking about isolationism. We are not talking about race, you know, but we are otherwise we wouldn't be talking about Africa as being one nation, including North Africa. But we are talking about that shared common experience and common aspirations. And so we are not separating Africans from non-Africans. Non-Africans who want to contribute to the progress, the independence, the liberation of Africans are most welcome.
Now, I'll want to return, perhaps if we have the time, to that question of, you know, Africa and what Africa consists of. But again, talking about your son, he's recently returned to Ghana, I believe, after some time living away. He was in Northern Europe, I believe. He's returned to Ghana. What has drawn him back to living here in Ghana?
We have to ask him that question. I can't speak for him. But I know that he started reading our father's books, Africa Must Unite, Conscientism, and other books. And I tell you, I tell everyone, disagree or agree with Kwame Nkrumah, but when you read him, something does happen to you. Because it awakens something even dormant in you, but it awakens something that we desperately need. And as Africans, I think at this particular time in history, you know, we need an African revolution. And I'm not talking about violence and bloodbaths, no, but that revolution of the mind we are talking about. This last century, the African revolution was political independence. So we have to sit and question. So this century, what is our revolution? It must be African unity, and it must be African economic independence.
Still.
Today, as we speak, yes, as we speak, if you just think of little details like, what is the GDP of Ghana today? You know, one African state in West Africa. We are talking about over $70 billion dollars per year. I think it was something around that figure. 70 billion a year in 2022 or 23. We can check the figures. Now, let's look at a country like Japan or Germany. What is the GDP per year? Over 4 trillion. So we are talking about billions. Others are talking about trillions. So just a small detail like this, doesn't that beg the question of economic integration so that we can be able to, you know, compete on a fair level or fair footing with other countries or other blocks in the world? So the real revolution for us this century is to integrate. But to do that, we have to get our politics right, because if we can't sit together as Ghanaians to prioritize, it will be harder for us to sit around as Africans to prioritize.
Indeed. And as you said, the revolution of the mind that has to take place where people realize the important things that need to bring them together. But to return to the question of your son, presumably one of the things he'll be helping you with is with your campaign running again in Jomoro. Jomoro constituency having a reputation for electing MPs for one term only.
Oh dear, yes.
But the sitting MP, though, Dorcas Afutofe for the NDC, the National Democratic Congress, claiming she's going to overturn that track record and she's going to win a second term in office. So with your son newly back in the country, how is he helping you in Jomoro? What new vision of life do you have for the people in Jomoro? Not necessarily a political one.
For sure, and of course everything is interlinked now. But as you rightly said, I mean, this is a microcosm. Jomoro is a microcosm of rural Ghana. It's a rural constituency. So the same characteristics, very wealthy, agricultural and mineral wealth, even the oil in the sea, hence the interest in the petroleum hub that the president just got the sodding for the first phase. So a constituency like this, with predominantly young people too, by the way, the fastest growing population section of the population. So what do you need? You need to boost the agriculture and have agri-industries, because that's where you have the space. You know, that's where you have nature at its best, which is just waiting for us to make use of. And after years of going up and down, and I'm thinking, no, I want to also walk the talk. I don't just, as the Americans say, I don't just want to be talking about these things. If I have the opportunity to do something myself, I would do it. And the opportunity presented itself. And I'm now working on beginning the construction of a coconut processing factory right in the heart of that district. Because, I mean, imagine when we can be churning out virgin coconut oil, activated charcoal, then carbon, which is used in all our mining activities. These are things we badly need.
From coconut byproducts.
Yes. And there's many more, but we'll start slowly, gradually, and build up. Now, these are the things that make me so excited, you know, because for me, everything is interlinked.
Sure.
Your personal life, your politics, your beliefs, your convictions. But I'm very excited about this because I think what rural Ghana needs is increased economic activity.
How many people
forms.
do you hope to be able to employ through the
over 100 definitely, and the skills development. It's not only even the number of people, but the skills development, the building capacity, and encouraging others to go into the same or into similar industries, because the more you have economic activity, the more others will be encouraged to come and join in. And the day rural Ghana rises, the whole of Ghana will shine. There is no doubt about it. And so I am very excited about what we are doing. And yes, and I want many others to be interested. We need to, many people were saying, oh, why don't you've been living in Accra 5 years, why don't you contest in...
Yes, come to Ladade Kutupong.
Exactly. And I said,
campaign in La Wireless.
No, I've started somewhere for many reasons, but I passionately believe in uplifting rural Ghana. And I think with the political tradition I come from, if I dare say in all humility, the big name I carry, I'm carrying it to represent, really, but we can use it, put it to good use, to activate an international network that could make a contribution to the development of a little constituency in the furthest point west and south of the country, practically
both west and south. Yes. Ilubo land, Jawewaf land, as we say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm impressed.
No. This is just one of those things of passing conversations that shouldn't be remembered at this point in time. But as you say, starting up an agribusiness venture, not just an agricultural enterprise, but as you said, the manufacturing element that we so need to build in our value chain here to produce products that are both comestibles, you can eat them, but also for use in mining, as you said, with the activated charcoal, other industries too. Jamoro, and I'm glad you raised the subject of the Petroleum Development Hub. Lately, the site of a lot of controversy, a lot of the young people precisely in the area being seemingly wary of plans for the government to set up this public-private partnership. A lot of money needed, but a lot of money would go in. It can create a very large number of jobs. We're developing this petroleum hub, which will make use of the oil offshore, as you said, bringing it on land and creating a whole manufacturing enclave, in effect, with associated industries producing everything from fertilizers to plastics and so on. What did you make of the objections of people? It presented itself largely as, why do you need so much land to start the enclave? But there were other things one sensed underlying the objection.
Yes, that's right. And there will always be issues associated with any major projects. I mean, it's impossible for there not to be. But where I come from, where the way I'm thinking is that people don't understand the number of unemployed youth, strong, vibrant, educated, in many instances. And of course those who lack education or skills, but the number is huge. And our young people are crying out for employment.
There's our earlier item on the Youth Employment Agency and the Skills Training Program.
Yes, indeed. So in all honesty, I cannot sit here and tell you I will not be happy. I would not be happy with a major project that would happen in the Jomoro constituency. You see, we have to encourage all these projects. But it is true that it's a colossal project and the money involved is huge, beyond huge. But it can be done in phases. And indeed, it will be done in phases.
Do you think that the scale of money on offer, people hearing, a $6 billion project, that is what is 60 billion, sorry, just leaving off a zero?
Yeah, that is huge. I can't even begin to think about
it. So you think it's a problem with the local people being able to absorb that idea?
Yes, but when you think of a 60 billion project, it's something that could happen in years. Yeah. You are not thinking
it's a bit like the Akosombo Dam project. It didn't happen overnight, did it?
Exactly. Lots of hard work, serious negotiations, pulling and pushing. I mean, Mother said our father hardly slept until it was inaugurated. You know, the years when the negotiations were taking place, it was a critical point in our history.
Yeah.
So indeed, you know, so I think where we have to interrogate and put pressure on the government and investors is in how we are going to do this enclave, industrial enclave, meaning what? That we have to meet the best standards environmentally. We have to do it in a way because, as I said, some of us want to go into agriculture in the same district and agri industry. So we need to make sure that it's done the right way, in a way that minimizes pollution. This is where we would come in heavily and we would insist. But allocating land for development, I mean, my God, that's what all countries do, and that's what we have to do, because these are projects. You're talking about a refinery, you're talking about more, but even one petrochemical plant, even one would make a huge difference.
Sure.
The jetty port, we badly need it. How can I sit here in all honesty knowing that there are thousands of young people who have nothing to do and who feel so discouraged about the future? How can I sit here and say that I oppose such a project from happening? I cannot, in all honesty, but I can insist that it is done in a way that is not harmful for the environment or mitigating the harm it can do to the environment. And we can insist on so many other things like local content and so forth. But definitely we cannot just oppose for political reasons. Again, this is why I insist that we have to move beyond partisan politics, because in all these cases, most of the opposition comes from the other side of the political spectrum. And some of us are saying that we need to do politics in a very different way. We seriously need to. It will help us a great deal, because it will even enable us to focus on the substance of issues rather than anything else. So definitely I encourage something like this. I was talking even to the investors somewhere. It's a consortium of that petroleum hub. Some are Italians, some are Chinese, some are Jordanians. And I was floating from one language to another.
Because of course you speak Italian and Arabic
absolutely.
and French as well.
Very bad French, embarrassingly bad French, but I'll work on it.
But your mum taught you French?
Yes, mother spoke French.
She
yes,
spoke perfect French, yes.
So, and I was even telling them, if you are coming, you have to think of that road, the road to the district capital, which they've been working on it for the past 5 years. But there's a stretch of it that it's in deplorable state. So it's my hope, my prayer, having investors like this, I was saying, you are coming to do this thing here. You have to help. You have to help the government with the roads.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Roads happen when there are things happening. When the Atwabo, the gas processing plant happened in Atwabo, the road became excellent, in excellent shape. So we need, for heaven's sake, I am willing to work with everybody to make sure good things happen for our people. I think the time for petty disagreements must be shelved. We have urgent matters on hand, and our priority is our development and lifting people out of poverty, out of lack of employment, out of desperation.
And a rural cycle of underdevelopment.
Thank you.
You were somebody who has returned home despite the discomforting circumstances under which you returned to Ghana. You've made yourself so much a local girl. You're not just a local girl here in our Ladadukotopon area. You're even a local girl there in Jomoro, a former MP returning, asking for their mandate to stand as an independent. I wanted to ask you where this leaves Egypt, where you'd spent 2 extended periods of your life.
Absolutely.
And of course is your motherland, in the sense that it's the country of your mother's birth. Your mother, Egyptian through and through, Christian, Coptic Christian, but Egyptian through and through. And of course you speak fluent Arabic. Is Egypt and is Cairo also still home for you?
Yes, indeed, and always will be, because that was almost our place of refuge at the most difficult point in our life. How can I forget that? And beyond that even, it is my dream and that I can somehow make a contribution to bring in Egypt more fully in Ghana. Because you cannot imagine the plans that were laid in the 60s. There was the Al Nasr company, the Egyptian company that was about to do great things in... it was a government company at the time, of course, but great things in not just Ghana, but the whole of West Africa. You see, if people underestimate that the strong links between North Africa and the rest of the continent during the independence struggle and the impact, the rapprochement or drawing North Africa to the rest of the continent had on our liberation struggle and building our industries in the early post-independence years. So many things would not have happened, or would not have happened in the way they happened without that. So when people say, oh, North Africa is not Africa, I say they don't understand the history and the sacrifices people made. But more importantly, I think we don't understand the opportunities. There are huge countries, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco. These countries are the most suited to help us build our industries. And they are very close to us, 5 hours by flight. So connectivity, communication must be improved sufficiently to allow for that greater collaboration. So the fact that half Egyptian, half Ghanaian, as you know.
A little bit of Italian,
Yes.
Danish thrown in, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that must be, we want to put that to good use because we have great potential to work with Egyptians and with North Africans in the years to come.
Well, we say I would, of course, have loved to have extended this conversation right through the morning into the afternoon. But Samia Yaba Nkrumah, it's been fascinating talking to you as our Boss Lady SheEO, and we didn't even get into the nitty-gritty of your political leadership and all the stories from that time. We'll have to have you back in the studio, we hope, again.
Absolutely, because your perseverance has paid off. So I'll be back.
All once. And we say our Boss Lady SheEO segment of the Asaase Breakfast Show was brought to you by courtesy of Bank of Africa. Bank of Africa, the African bank with global reach. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China,